Welcome to the AYP News Show, where Marc Silber dives into the latest photography news.
So our first story is we have a Black-owned photography store that's opened up in Brooklyn recently.
I think this is
here
really
during
cool.
the pandemic. Yeah. And it's not easy to get to, but people have been talking about it a lot, and they're super excited about it because they not only sell cameras, but they're also selling used equipment, and they also sell film. And I know that there's quite a few people here who are into using film or experimenting with film. And not only will they, and here it says that they've had 1,200 customers that have come through and bought things since September.
That's
which,
awesome.
For a small space in Brooklyn. And I believe it said it's like one of the only Black-owned photography studios up there in Brooklyn. And they're just really excited, and they even process the film too.
I know.
So
I think that's cool.
books, camera. They're processing the film. And he says that he's had a lot of young people coming in and picking up photography that have very little experience, but they've been coming in and checking it out. And
I love this
stuff.
Hey, listen. Any new business that opens up during COVID and is doing well, I applaud that. I applaud the fact that these guys are doing, they're obviously very heavy on film. You can see the refrigerator there, folks. Whenever you see a refrigerator in a camera store, it means they're selling film. And that is really cool. And the fact that they're also processing it, this is a cool trend. I mean, look, we want to have local stores too. I don't want to see them all go out of business because, some of those big giants are absorbing all the sales. I'm totally in favor of local business, film. It's like the old days of photography. This is what we used to do. We'd go to the camera store and we'd talk to the guy behind the counter and they'd give you good advice. I miss that. So that's awesome. I wish we had one of those around here.
All right.
Yeah, what's
Moving
next?
on to our next story. This was something really interesting. I did not expect to see something like this. So this is a gentleman in Japan. He's a photographer, and obviously we are, currently not able to travel much. And so he's stuck in Japan. Oh no, beautiful Japan.
Yeah.
But once again, he's using the space that he has. And he talked about how, a lot of people think of Mount Fuji as the epitome of beauty, but for him, it's this lake that's nearby where he lives.
Yeah.
And what he's been doing.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
Here, so he goes out and he takes a bunch of different equipment out, which is normally the opposite of what, we talk about. But he's basically using this as a way where he goes out, he takes exactly what he wants, he takes the image, and then he's editing it live.
Yeah.
Right there where he's taken it on his Surface Pro. And he says that he considers using the Surface Book as like a dark room.
Yeah.
And so he's doing it while he's there, and he's looking at the scene, and he's making it look the exact way he wants it to.
That is something I have never even considered. And, we usually really just separate, shooting from processing. But what this does is it brings it more into like the realm of being a painter, where you obviously finish the canvas when you're out there. He kind of inspired me to try that out. I don't know. I do sort of, I'm old school. You go out and shoot, you bring it back to the dark room, you process it as a separate thing. But it might be interesting to try that. Who knows? And the fact that he's, again, sticking with your theme of staying local. Mm-hmm. He's not traveling hundreds of miles away. He's going to, I assume this pond is really close to his house somewhere. And this is a message that we want to pass along to you guys, is just take advantage of your local environment. Even if you think it's mundane or because you see it every day, other people don't. And that's really important.
Okay. All right. And now here's a third one along the same theme. So this is a gentleman who did it, and you actually know quite a bit about this. You watched a documentary.
Yeah, there's a documentary. It was actually on 60.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce this one?
Yeah, so he was on 60 Minutes. He's just been on a project to catalog endangered species and photograph them before they disappear. He calls it the photo arc. And he's been doing it, I believe, for about 15 years.
Yep.
He's now, I mean, he's part of National Geographic somehow. I don't know if they're sponsoring him.
So he was a National Geographic photographer before this.
Right.
And just to give like a little bit of background, essentially what happened is he'd been traveling for National Geographic, which, as Bob Holmes will tell you, involves, back then especially,
Yeah.
involved going out for long periods of time. And he wanted to stay home a little bit. So he went to his local zoo.
Yeah.
Once again, finding a way nearby to stay local but still do something. And now he's cataloged over 10,000 species.
If Stephen is watching this, he could certainly tell us. He's a zoographer, and he could certainly tell us how to do it. In fact, we should probably have him on the show, because most of us are near some kind of zoo somewhere, and this gives you a whole range of photographs. Look at these amazing images, and they're portraits. I love the way he takes portraits of these animals. He is on a tear. It's amazing how many he's taken over the last 15 years.
And even things like, this is just like it's a mussel. That's all.
There you go.
But
who knew?
But you can see such great detail in it.
Fantastic. Good work.
And for some of these are extinct species too.
I haven't had a rough pigtoe mussel in a long time, so no wonder they've disappeared.
So our next one is going a little further away from home, but still a really good story. So there is this Atlanta-based couple. They have a photography studio, and they had created a book celebrating. They have a company called Creative Soul Photography, and they had created a book or a series called Afro Art, which was celebrating Afro hair beauty, visually stunning pictures of children. And they decided to continue that and have now created a book called Glory, Magical Visions of Black Beauty. And so they've gone all around the world to places like Kenya and Ghana and South Africa, all across Europe. And they've been collecting photos of children, black children, in each of these environments.
That is really cool. And again, you guys, this is what I'm talking about, is find the area that you are passionate about and invest a lot of time and energy into developing that project. Because just like we develop a single image, in the old days in the darkroom or on our even Photoshop or Lightroom, we're still developing. You have to develop a whole project. It doesn't just jump out one day complete. It's something you work on and you keep tweaking. And what I want to do is provide you feedback and critiquing, not just for the individual images, but for the project as a whole. This is really important. Okay.
All right.
Back to Nikon.
So we're bringing Nikon up again, which is a little interesting considering what we talked about last week. But they have their Nikon photo contest, which has been going on since 1969. It's biannual. So
read the fine print, please.
Yep. Make sure, first off, we're going to encourage, before you submit, read all the fine print.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand what you're getting into. But this is hosted by their European division, I believe.
Okay.
But it's international. Nikon Europe has announced the return of its biannual international photography competition. And here are some of the ones that have won in years past. And it looks like there's video and there's still photos.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, there's two different entries. And Connect is the open category. So if you are, so anybody can enter that, and the theme is trying to connect with photographers and filmmakers. And then there's a next generation category, which is open to photographers 25 years old and younger.
Uh-huh.
So you have to be younger.
I guess
than
I can
25.
apply for that one then. Okay, good.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad there's a category for me.
And so they're going to be looking at those images based on passion is the goal for that. So, we have a couple of younger people who are involved. I definitely would encourage you to take a look at this. Once again, read the fine print.
Make sure you know what you're giving your photos to.
So we've got this new t-shirt design. We have been working on it for a bit. And so we've got the AYP logo,
There it is.
and then Capture Life. It's a little long to put the whole saying of what we have, but Capture Life we felt like really sums up what we're trying to do.
We had a brainstorming session a couple of days ago, and Jan was on the call, and she said, I said, well, okay, we got to get out and capture your own images of life. And she said, no, that's way too long. All right. I reluctantly gave in, and she said, no, let's just use Capture Life. She's right. She's absolutely right. In fact, it sums it all up. If you capture life, not only are you capturing the photograph, but life itself. I mean, it's about being alive.
All right. So now we're moving on to our in memory, where we like to focus on a photographer who has passed away recently. This week we have Frank Horvat, who was a groundbreaking fashion photographer.
Very
and
interesting.
He actually got his start with he got his start with Cartier-Bresson. He met him in 1950.
Our good friend Henry Cartier-Bresson.
Yeah, and he encouraged him, and so he was born in 1928. So he was 92 years old when he passed away.
Yeah.
And then as a teenager, he traded away his stamp collection for his first camera, and then he studied fine art. And then he switched over to photography and got a Leica and took a 2-year trip to India after talking with Cartier-Bresson. And that was when he experienced his first major success in photography. Then he moved to Paris, became a photojournalist in sort of the sleazy underbelly of the French capital. And then he took what he learned from that and brought it to photography. Or, sorry, not to photography, to fashion photography.
Right.
And so we're just going to take a look at some of this
look at
stuff.
some of these photos.
This is from the 40s.
His inspiration of Cartier-Bresson is pretty evident here in these photos. But you said Cartier-Bresson wasn't very, he called him passé, right?
Yeah, he wasn't that impressed with his work.
Might take a lot to impress the old HCB, as we call him.
Yeah, and so that was the stuff from the 40s, and then in the 50s, here's some of his
he started coming out of
stuff.
He started coming out of the box here.
And you can see, so this is his early fashion stuff in the late 50s, and it's pretty standard. This is the kind of thing that would run back then. But then we get into the 60s, and this is the stuff that he's doing for fashion.
This is a fashion photo. Isn't that interesting, you guys? It really just looks more... Yeah, so he's out and about in the environment. That wasn't the thing until then.
Yeah, so he's taking his photojournalism and the way I kind of see it is it's very much like, people aren't wearing these clothes in a studio. They're wearing them out in the real world.
In the real world, quote, real world. I mean, these are staged, but nonetheless... smoking. Remember when smoking was cool?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Okay. Yeah. So
here's some of his other work that he
what a body of work. 92 years old, took a lot of photographs.
This is from a project called Portraits of Trees.
Interesting. Portraits of trees. Now it's interesting to hear that.
I chose this one.
Yeah, because I talk about that, and Jared sent in that beautiful portrait. Last week we saw that. So remember, you can take portraits of anything, rocks, trees, your dog.
So Luminar has done a new first annual Bug Photography Awards. I know we have a couple people who enjoy bug photography. And what I thought was so fun about this is the winner was a person who as a child was extremely deathly afraid of bugs.
Oh, interesting.
And here they are. They've won this bug photography contest, and they said that they started bug photography to get over their fear.
I hear you. Wow. So this is like what we were looking at. Was it last week about with the micro photography? Yeah, very similar. These are portraits, by the way, you guys.
Yep. Just
bug
as much
portraits.
As the trees or pets, they're bugs.
There you go. And I didn't do this before, but I want to make sure you guys do, who are watching us, subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our shows, and make sure you like, share, leave your comments. We really do go through your comments and try to answer any that need answering. Otherwise, we might just give you a thumbs up or something. And remember, before I end off, and I want to hear you guys say this at the end of your videos, okay? Remember, say it along with me, to capture your own images of life and short form, capture life. Love you guys. See you tomorrow, okay? Stay well, stay safe, and stay creative.